Want to speak real Hindi from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at HindiPod101.com.
Hi! Welcome to Introduction to Hindi. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Venus.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Hindi grammar.
Did you know that Hindi doesn't use articles?
Really? That means you don't have to worry about where to put a and where to add an and where to use the?
Yes. Doesn't that make things easier?
It definitely does. What about gender? How is it indicated in Hindi?
Firstly, there is no he or she in Hindi. You can use the same pronoun for both genders.
Great!
But the verbs do change depending on the gender of the person speaking and the gender of the person you are speaking to.
Oh, that is quite complicated.
Not really. It is usually quite simple. If a verb uses e at the end, it means it is feminine. But if it uses a at the end, it means it is masculine. We will go through a few examples later in this lesson to find out just how easy it is.
Also, in Hindi, there is no neutral gender. Every object is either masculine or feminine.
Yes, so an auto rickshaw is masculine and a bus is feminine.
But there isn't a need to worry about getting the gender of all objects correct in the beginning. This is something you'll catch on to as you go on learning Hindi. How about we look at an example of verbs and how they change based on gender? Let's begin with the verb to do.
Sure. In Hindi, to do is karna. If you are female, you would say karti. And if you are male, you would say karta. So, the last vowel changes. It is e for females and a for males. Yes, the same goes when you address someone. If they are female, use e at the end of the verb. And if they are male, use a at the end.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about articles, we don't have to worry about pronouns being gender-based, but we have to be concerned about verbs being based on gender?
Yes, that's right.
How about we go on and take a look at some personal pronouns now?
In Hindi, the first person singular pronoun is main.
And it doesn't matter whether you're female or male. You can use the same pronoun.
Yes, the first person plural pronoun is hum.
While there's only one first-person singular pronoun in Hindi, there are 3 second-person singular pronouns, right?
Yes, they are tu, tum and aap. Tu is used in a very informal way, something you will use with a very close friend. Tum is also informal, but not as much as tu. It is something you may want to use with a friend, a close colleague, your kids, your siblings, or even your spouse. But aap is the formal form of address. It is something that you would like to use at your office while addressing your parents, strangers, or your elders. The interesting thing is that you can use tum and aap as the second person plural too. But generally, a word like all or people is added to tum and aap to make the second person plural. So, you could say tum log or aap log, where log means people. Or you could say tum sab or aap sab, where sab means all.
Good. So we learned 2 more words here, for people and all.
Yes, log means people and sab means all. Let's check the third person singular now. For he, she, it, this, we use ye. And for he, she, it, that, we use veh. The plural will be ye for these and veh for those.
So, how about we try and make some sentences now?
Sure, we can. But before we actually go on to forming sentences, we will need to know a little more about the various forms of the verb to be.
Of course, to be is an important verb not only in Hindi but also in English. Without knowing about how to use it, it's very difficult to form sentences. Imagine having no am, are, were, was, have, or has in English. There would be no sentences. So what is to be in Hindi?
It is hona.
How would we say I am in Hindi?
For I am, hona changes to hu. मैं हूँ. We are becomes हम हैं, where होना changes to है. With तुम you use हैं, and तुम you use हो, and with आप you use है.
That means the to be form is the same for plural and for respectful address.
Yes, it is हैं.
Does it change depending on whether a man speaks or a woman?
No, it doesn't. We have 3 versions of hona, and these are हूँ, हैं.
Great! So now we can make a sentence.
Definitely.
How would you say, I am Alicia?
That would be मैं अलीशा हूँ. So, the order of the words is I, Alicia, am, or pronoun, noun, verb.
That means, unlike English, the noun comes before the verb in Hindi.
Yes, indeed.
Let's try out a few more sentences. How about, I am good? How would we say that in Hindi?
मैं अच्छा हूँ if you are male. मैं अच्छी हूँ if you are female. Did you notice how for males the word good becomes अच्छा and for females it becomes अच्छी?
Yes, indeed. What about the plural version of the Hindi word for good?
That would be अच्छे. This would also be used if you are using a respectful address for a male. आप अच्छे हैं. Generally, the respectful form when addressing males is the same as the plural version.
That makes things quite simple. But good is an adjective. Does that mean that all adjectives also change depending on the gender?
Not always, but sometimes they do. You will pick this up as you practice the language more and more.
Okay, but what about past tense?
Was becomes था, or थे, or थी.
So, how would you say, how are you?
आप कैसे हैं? और आप कैसी हैं?
And how would you answer that?
मैं अच्छा हूँ if you are male, और मैं अच्छी हूँ if you are female.
Wow, we learned a lot about Hindi grammar today. Let's recap what we've learned in this lesson. In this lesson, we learned that there are no articles in Hindi. The pronouns are not gender-based, but the verbs are never neutral. They're always masculine or feminine. We also learned that you can use 3 variations of the word you, depending on whether you want to use a formal, informal, or a little more informal version. We also learned how the verb to be changes depending on whether the sentence is singular, plural, formal, or informal. And of course, we also learned how to say, how are you? And how to answer this very important question. We just learned the basics of Hindi grammar. In the next lesson, we'll learn the basics of Hindi writing. See you in the next lesson. Bye!